What a life the dingo must have lived in the time before European settlement. Not only were they the top order predator of the animal kingdom, they shared companionship and alliance with the most sophisticated life form on Earth. As the tall ship sailed into Sydney Harbour, little did the dingo know they would soon come to know a new kind of man. A man to be feared, mistrusted, and avoided at all cost. For the last 200 years, the dingo has been, and probably still is, the most persecuted animal in the history of Australia. Never has an animal been so consistently hunted and poisoned. Dingoes in Victoria hang on fences with skins stripped from nose to tail. Dingoes are legal bounty. Our government pays $50 a head to go out, kill a dingo, scalp it, and to leave the carcass on a fence to rot. The fence that runs from Jimba in Queensland to the Eyre Peninsula in the Great Southern Bight in South Australia is the longest fence in the world at a distance of 5,321 kilometres. It's called the dingo fence. It's 2.5 metres high and is buried 30 centimetres deep to stop dingoes digging underneath. $20 million fence, $1 million bounty on the dingoes they've put up to eradicate wild dogs. Because the dingo is classified as a feral wild dog, it comes under the bounty. They're doing this because they don't want to repair the fences. It costs them more money. In WA, the worst culling program in Australia is carried out 4 times a year. The Western Shield program has been likened to the Vietnamese Agent Orange program. Over a 9 million hectare area during a 45,000 kilometre flight, 1080 baits are dropped out of planes. The baits are dried kangaroo meat with 1080 poison in them. The baits last 3 months, and with 4 drops a year, there's active baits in the environment the entire year. When large numbers of adults are killed in dingo communities, the young run wild. The initial baiting destroys dominant dogs that hold the territory. This leads the country wide open to exploitation by dogs holding the surrounding countryside and many juvenile dogs waiting to establish themselves. The natural social structure of dingoes can be compared to a human community with its family and social controls backed up by police departments and judicial systems. After a catastrophe, these systems become dysfunctional. Before dingoes can effectively catch and kill large kangaroos, they need a cooperative effort from at least 4 or 5 pack members. This level of understanding increases greatly with the passing of each generation. Not yet having been taught the finer skills of hunting kangaroos, they roam onto forbidden areas which were before outside their territory and gang up cattle and sheep. Without the alpha male or beta pair to guide young males, every bitch will conceive and all wander off to raise their pups. They welcome past enemies, the survivors of different family groups, genetically inferior outcasts including hybrids, and run in large packs. Until such time as a male becomes old enough and wise enough to claim dominance with his selected mate and take control of the volatile situation. When the baiting continues, dominant dogs are removed, stable packs are fractured, and more litters are raised by subordinate dingoes, in a state of anarchy without a hierarchy dictating pack laws. The dingo was recognised as a breed by the Australian National Kennel Club in 1993 and named Australia's national breed. It's also listed as a threatened species by the World's Conservation Union. Once a dingo is recognised as an Australian species, it can be named an endangered species nationally. Not only did the dingoes as a group vanquish a giant ripper lizard and herald the end of the last big predators in southwest Australia, they also helped the Noongar catch sufficient food to withstand the post-Ice Age drought. Dingoes were brought to Australia by Asian seafarers 35,000 years after Indigenous people had been here. Researchers believe they accompanied people on their migrations across the land during the Neolithic period before reverting back to the wild. The dingo is known to be a primitive form of domestic dog. It's found in Australia, Burma, Cambodia, China, India, Myanmar, Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. Dingo legislation differs from state to state. Western Australia has enormous nucleus, an outspringing of people who own dingoes and really want to be responsible. Why can't that be expanded to include other responsible people and a code of ethics for the keeping of dingoes by the public under the permit system that's already there? It's an enormous mistake to lump the dingo for the convenience of administration into the Dog Act or the Companion Animal Act. Why is it too difficult to administer dingo paperwork, and why can't it be done by exactly the same staff who are looking after the raptors, reptiles, and native birds? Shouldn't conservation legislation apply to endangered wildlife? In Victoria, dingoes may be kept by the public provided they have a permit. Potential dingo owners need to take steps and say okay to get a permit. I've got to put up around $5,000 to have a decent enclosure, therefore I'm serious about having a dingo. I've invested this much, so keeping my dingo is going to be an ongoing for keeping that investment. Moving north to New South Wales, the legislation has moved to allow the dingo free rein in ownership. This has ended up in disastrous situations for so many dingoes. In New South Wales, anyone can have them. Anybody is getting them, and anybody is looking after them. These animals end up in pounds, run over, dumped or dead, because people don't have the requirements, tolerance, and facilities to care for them. While some dingoes are probably better off because they do have a home in New South Wales, the deregulation has meant that not all dingoes have responsible owners. In the Northern Territory and Australian Capital Territory, both territories permit the dingo to be owned by the people. No problems owning dingoes in those two areas. South Australia is almost like Queensland. South Australia and Queensland were the two states that desperately wanted the dingo fence. South Australia is sticking by that, and nobody may keep a dingo inside the area of the dingo fence. In Queensland, forget it. People are not allowed to own a dingo in Queensland. People are not allowed to harbour dingoes in Queensland. Even fauna parks must submit their educational material to the government authority before applications are heard or approved. All dingoes must be desexed, and the education material must clearly state that the dingo is vermin and is a dangerous animal. There are only 2 documented suspected deaths by dingo in the entire history of Australia. There are many, many more deaths by domestic dog documentations, or sharks, or jellyfish, or crocodiles. As for the Azarian story, the inquest court actually officially cleared the dingo of the death. The facts are that there are 16,000 dog bites every year. To put that into perspective, officially there has been 9 purebred dingo bites against humans. One estimate says 12. The best we can find on a sustainable factual level is 9. That's in 200 years. Compare that to 16,000. I will howl with you as you grieve for yet another habitat lost, and will pine by your side for your ancestors killed out of ignorance and hate. You are my mate, a vision of what being Aussie is all about. Loyal, determined, and a larrikin. I will not let your cries for help go unheard another day.